Well, if there was a prize for you saying, yes, the markets are looking better, you would have won something this morning. We'll check in with markets again later. Let's continue our build-up now to 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Thursday night is when the President is going to address the country for the State of the Nation address. Will be 7 p.m. live here on eNCA and also on eNCA.com, live streaming there. So let's go back down to Cape Town now, where Tumela Motatwane, obviously my co-host as far as the show is concerned. We've sent you down to Cape Town. It looks like a beautiful, beautiful day, but we're down there to talk business, aren't we? We're down there to talk youth, unemployment, and so many other issues, Tumza, which I know you've spoken about, and you're joined by Judith February this morning.
Absolutely, Gareth. And the reason we're joined by Judith is because we want to talk about governance issues, what her expectations are come 7 p.m. tomorrow evening when the President does, of course, address the nation. Judith, thank you so much for your time and good morning to you. Let's start with some of the governance, the gaps, rather, in governance that you have identified that you feel are, or think are rather pivotal for the President to take note of.
Well, good morning, Tumelo. So I think firstly is that we have to recognise that this State of the Nation address takes place amidst a concerted assault on our constitutional democracy. Yesterday we had the Sandy Africa report which came out, which was around what happened last year during the insurrection. And what that report did is it places the blame squarely on in the laps of the Cabinet, the President, and also the ANC itself. It is now clear that the ANC as a party, its factionalism and its divisions, and the timidity of the President and the divisions in Cabinet are now an existential threat to our democracy. So for me, we can have the conversation about the things that need to change, and of course service delivery is important. But at the end of the day, if the edifice is coming down, then you have a huge problem. And so tomorrow, I hope that the President addresses that and takes some action immediately afterwards against those members of his Cabinet who are undermining our constitutional democracy.
Yeah. When you speak about accountability, you remind me of the July unrest, the report that was just given to the President this past Monday. And obviously, those involved need to take responsibility. Can we expect that from the President, particularly on what happened last year with the July unrest, to say this is where we went wrong and this is what I'm doing as President to rectify it?
Well, remember last year he told us we know who they are, and here we are 7 months later, eight months later, and we still have no idea. Nobody has been arrested, no mastermind, no person behind it. Here the President has an opportunity to show leadership and to move out of his mode, which has been about putting party over country repeatedly. We have a Minister of Police who seems permanently to be blustering his way through the job. We have rising levels of crime. We have a police commissioner who ought to be out of his job, who's currently being investigated for stymieing an investigation into a gang-related killing, and yet individuals remain in their jobs. Now, whether the President will decide that he's got to expend the political capital, what is left of it, to act against individuals within his Cabinet, only time will tell. But if the past is the predictor of future behaviour, then it doesn't look good. Just recently we had the spat between him and Minister of Tourism Lindiwe Sisulu. Minister Sisulu has directly defied the President. She's in fact said that he lied in a press statement, and she remains in her job. She's made an egregious attack on our Constitution and our democracy, and nothing is done. So when the President comes to Parliament tomorrow, he is coming to Parliament with a crisis of credibility. And whether he can shore up enough support and remedy that remains to be seen.
With that being said, Judith, the President has been criticised for lack of policy implementation. I spoke to Ndiso Group Consulting CEO Alex Mabunda, telling me that policies need to be implemented speedily, timeously, quite urgently, to say the least. Should we expect the President to make more promises, but also what happens to the unfulfilled promises?
Well, this is the thing, Tumelo. So I liken it to those Russian babushka dolls, where you have one policy, one plan inside another, and at the end of the day, and a task team and a report, and at the end of the day, nobody knows whether we don't know whether we're coming or going. It is quite clear that our society, with a level of unemployment of 35.9% on the narrow definition of employment, this is a crisis in any other society. And so what we need to be doing is we need to be focusing particularly on youth unemployment. I mean, the ANC in its January 8th statement talks about youth unemployment and leveraging the youth. But of course you can't do that without investment, without a growing economy, and without providing people with skill. We've had promises before with regard to the youth unemployment and so on. The President has promised that in 2018, so many million jobs for young people. But yet we don't have that report back. The one point, what I would imagine the President should do, if I were in his shoes, is to keep it very simple, not to complicate the simple,
right,
and to have a few key priorities, and it's got to be constitutional democracy undergirding it. It's got to be unemployment. It's got to be the inequality that goes along with that, and it's got to be our energy crisis.
Right.
Yesterday we had the announcement of Daniel Manele to be looking at the questions of the just transition and money that's going to be given to South Africa to implement that from the developed world. But at the same time, you have a Minister of Minerals and Energy who is addicted to coal. The President has to decide where in the spectrum he is. Is he going to be taking us on a path to a just transition? And if so, Gwede Mantashe is a contradiction to that. So these are leadership questions. And then, of course, you've got the issue of the social relief distress grant.
Yeah.
You know, what will be done? Those grants expire in March 2022. People are desperate. 1.5 million people have lost their jobs during this COVID pandemic. Is this the moment for him to speak about a universal basic income grant? The country needs it. People are desperate. They're crying out for help.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Judith. We'll have to leave it there. Your expectations raised quite clearly, Gareth. There you heard it. Judith rather touching on various issues and, parts that the President can, of course, address come 7 p.m. Tomorrow evening. Whether indeed President Ramaphosa will touch on it or not, it's up to the rest of us to make sure that we're staying tuned to that State of the Nation address. Gareth?
All right, we'll leave it there for now. I'll come back to you later again. In Cape Town, for us in the CBD area, people on their way to work, it is those ordinary South Africans that the State of the Nation actually makes a difference to. It's one thing to hear the President speak. It's one thing to hear the politicians react. Of course, we'll have that from 7 p.m. tomorrow night here on eNCA, but it's the ordinary South Africans that it makes all the difference to. Now, still